All right, so here's our video for 5.5 because I'm not going to be here. This is for Friday, November, what's today? Today's the 5th, so Friday, November 7th. This is going to give you guys another way to solve for quadratics. We have factored, so you can solve by factoring, you can solve by taking square roots, and you can use the quadratic formula. And the quadratic formula works for all of them. However, sometimes it's kind of a pain in the butt. Like it takes a long time to do it. Like there's lots of numbers. This newest way is called solving by completing the square. Some students like it way better, like when certain conditions are there, they like it way better than quadratic formula because it's quicker. So let's go over what it is. It's on the basis of just a shape. So what is a square? It's just an object where all sides are the same length. Okay, so we are going to complete a square. We're going to make it so all sides are the same length. If we look at underneath number 1, our first example A, what we're going to do is we're going to fill in part of this box and then we're going to complete the square with the C term. So what we do is we split up our B term in half, which is 10x. So we take half of this, which goes here, and the other half goes here. So we have 10x and 10x, that split up our 20x into both of those. And then we have our x squared here. So what we need to do is we need to complete the square. If we are just factoring from here, this is x, and this is 10 and 10. So to complete this box down here, we multiply 10 times 10. So this is going to be 100. So our new C term is 100, and that completes this square. All right, so if we were to rewrite this in factor form, it would be x plus 10 squared. And that's how completing the square is. It's allowing us to write it as a perfect square equation. Okay, let's do the next one. We have x squared minus 18x. So if we take half of that, we have 9x. So we're going to put 9x and 9x here. We have our x squared always. So if we're just going to factor this part of it, we have x and 9 and x and 9. So to get the bottom right corner, we multiply 9 times 9 and get 81. So again, it allows us to rewrite it as a perfect square, which is x plus 9 squared. Okay, then we have our very last one. We have x squared plus 6x. So we take half of this, and this is 3x, and this is 3x. Oh, crap. Hold on. Let's go back to the last one. Because hopefully you guys were wondering what I was doing. This is negative 18, so this should be negative 9 and negative 9. So these should be negative. So this should be x minus 9 squared. This still stays positive because a negative times a negative equals a positive. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, let's go back to C. We have x and 3 and x and 3. So when we factor, we have x and 3 and x and 3. This is positive. I checked on this one. So if we do 3 times 3, we get 9. So completing the square gives us a 9, which allows us to write it as a perfect square, which is x plus 3 squared. I kind of jumped ahead here. A perfect square trinomial can be written as x plus 2 squared. This is called a perfect square trinomial. If you multiply it out, you have a perfect square. Okay, so this is where it can help us with solving. We have x plus 6x plus 10, which we already know from up here. X plus 6x, we need a 9, okay? So let's just go ahead and we're going to disregard our 10 for right at the moment. What we're going to do is we're going to factor it out like we were doing up above to make a perfect square. So we have x squared here. We take half of our 6x. We have 3x and 3x. So if we factor at this point, we get x and 3 and x and 3. And this would make a 9. But our perfect square is actually x squared plus 6x plus 9, which is different from this one. So we need to think about what do we add to our C term to get to a 10, which is a 1. This is actually, you'll see this in secondary 3, this is called a remainder, which allows us to add things to something outside of the box. So to rewrite this as a perfect square, we have our x plus 3 squared from this side and this side. And then with our remainder, you have to add it after it, which would give us the plus 10 instead of the plus 9. So this is the answer when we are completing this square. Let's practice it again. We have x squared minus 10x plus 20. So again, we're going to disregard our 20 for right now. So we have x squared. We take half of our b term, which is negative 5x. Don't make the mistake of doing a positive 5x like I did on the last one. So we have x and negative 5 and x and negative 5, which makes our square down here 25. So from here we have x squared plus, nope, not plus, struggling, minus 10x plus 25, but we need a 20. Okay, we're going to rewrite this as a perfect square, so x minus 5 squared. This gives us a 25, but the number actually needs to be 20, so we're going to subtract 5 to get to our 20. This is our remainder again. Because this square has too many, so we have to subtract. All right, let's go to the last example on this page. We have our x squared. We're going to fill in the two boxes. We're going to take half of our b term, so we have 2x and 2x. So x and 2 and x and 2, which gives us 4, which means our remainder out here is going to be 3 because we need to make this a 7. So as a perfect square, we have x plus 2 squared, and then plus 3 after it. All right, so that's just being able to complete this square. That's a skill to be able to do that. We are going to solve now by completing the square. You guys have done this. Well, not by completing the square, but once we get it into completing the square, you guys have done, I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so we're going to draw our square in here. They don't give us this. We're going to take half of our b term, so we have x squared, 3x, and 3x. So x and 3 and x and 3, which means our b term down here is 9. But we need negative 4, so we have to subtract a whole bunch. So we're going to subtract 13. So to be able to write this as a perfect square, we have x plus 3 squared minus 13 is equal to 0. Now we're going to solve this by taking square roots because we have something that is squared. So our first step is to get that alone. So we're going to add 13 over to the right side. So we have x plus 3 squared equal to positive 13. Now we need to get rid of the squared part. So we take the square root of both sides. The square root and the square go away. And we have x plus 3 is equal to 13 can't be simplified, so we just have plus or minus the square root of 13. Oops, I don't need this parenthesis down here. Okay, now we have to get x alone, so we're going to subtract 3 and subtract 3. So x is equal to negative 3 plus the square root of 13 and negative 3 minus the square root of 13. Or you can write it negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 13. So these are our two answers. All right, let's do another example. This one is subtract. So we draw our box. I have to tell myself it's subtract because I forget. So x squared, we take half of this, so minus 4x and minus 4x. So x minus 4 and x minus 4. This is going to give us a 16. We don't need a 16, we need a 4, so our remainder is going to be negative 12 because 16 minus 12 gives us the 4. So as an equation, I'm going to write it over here. I have x minus 4 squared. Remember, they come from right here. And then we have our remainder, so, whoa, not the highlighter. Minus 12 is equal to 0. So again, we need to get the perfect square part alone, the x minus 4 squared. So we're going to add 12 to both sides. So x minus 4 squared is equal to 12. Got to get rid of the squared parts. We take the square root of both sides. So our square root and our squared go away, and we have x minus 4 is equal to the square root of 12, which we need to do a factor tree on that. So 4 and 3, we have the square root of 4 times the square root of 3. The square root of 4 is 2, so we have plus or minus 2 square root 3. So then we add 4 to both sides, so x is equal to 4 plus or minus 2 square root 3. All right, 2 more examples. I'm just going to go ahead and do all of them. If you feel like you're okay, you can go on to the homework. All right, so first of all, you have to set it equal to 0 first. So we're going to add 2 to both sides. So x squared plus 16x plus 71 is equal to 0. So we need to complete our square. We have x squared. Take half of our b term, so 8x and 8x. So x and 8 and x and 8. And our 8 times 8 gives us 64. But we actually need 71, so we're going to add 7. So as a perfect square, we have x plus 8 squared. And then add the 7, so we can get our 71 is equal to 0. We're going to solve this by taking square roots, so we subtract 7. X plus 8 is equal to negative 7. Well, sorry, I forgot the squared. So right away, you should know that this is going to give us imaginary because we have to get rid of the squared by taking square roots. So x plus 8 is equal to, and the square root of negative 7 gives us plus or minus I square root 7. We subtract 8 from both sides so we can get x alone, and x is equal to negative 8 plus I square root 7 and negative 8 minus I square root 7, or you can write it negative 8 plus or minus, I square root 7. Okay, our very last one. Again, set it equal to 0, so we're going to subtract 17. So x squared minus 10x minus 11 is equal to 0. Complete the square. I have x squared and negative 5x and negative 5x. So when we factor, we have x and negative 5, x and negative 5, and this gives us 25. But our number is actually negative 11, so we have to subtract a whole bunch. So we're going to subtract 36. So as a perfect square, it's written x minus 5 squared. And then we have to subtract our 36 because that would give us a c term of negative 11 is equal to 0. So we're going to solve this by taking square roots again. We get the squared part alone, so add 36. X minus 5 squared is equal to 36. Take the square root, and x minus 5 is equal to, the square root of 36 is 6, plus or minus 6. Don't forget that part right there. That's where the plus and minus go. Then we're going to add 5 to both sides. So, not an x. 5 plus or minus 6, which we split off into 2 equations. So we have 5 plus 6, and we have 5 minus 6. So our 2 answers are 11 and negative 1. Okay, hopefully you guys do well on this. You should. You guys have done well on factoring and everything. So there are steps down here if you forget how to do that. But I am expecting you guys to go on to your homework, get it done. It is due next class period, so make sure you're getting things done. Thanks, guys.